come in.
Yeah, loads of questions coming in for you, buddy. Jason McDonough wants to know, what advice would you give to young players?
It's a cliche, isn't it? But hard work, and that takes many forms. Such an easy word to throw out, but being relentless in your pursuit of working hard to achieve whatever that is you might want to achieve, that will always set yourself. Well, firstly, it'll give you the best opportunity to succeed. But secondly, if you work hard enough, it'll set you apart from other players and other lads that are all vying for the same thing. As I say, fortune is massive in any player's career, especially a young player's career. There are so many, especially now, young players at academies, and it's brilliant to see. Without question, that's filtering into the England setups and why we're seeing success there because of the standard of coaching, facilities, etc., scouts. That's without question making it even harder for young players to get through. However, with that being the case, working harder than the person next to you, challenging yourself to work harder than the person next to you, whether that be practice hours, whether that be looking after your nutrition, looking after seeking people, as I talk about mental health, talking to people as best as you can to get yourself in the right mind frame, whatever those little bits of percentages that can help along that route will set you apart.
Sort of appreciated that, and I felt that, you know, in hindsight, looking back on it, I felt like he probably got the best out of me. He didn't give me the best opportunity once we got to the Premier League. I think early on, you know, that first few months, he started me against Arsenal, but then quite quickly, you know, we're not. Let's be honest, we're playing Arsenal, who had just previously won the league. We're not going to go there expecting to win. But we gave a good account of ourselves. You know, Alusisi got sent off on the day. We lost 2-0. I didn't feel I had a bad game, but I didn't feel I'd impacted the game. I just felt like I got eased out of the team probably too quickly after that. And then it took me a while to get back in. And I was on the bench numerous times, but you want to play. You're working all them years behind and all the heartache that you've had.
Yeah.
Off your feet. You want to play in the Premier League. You want to show that you perform there. It took me a while to get Steve's trust, I think, really, to sort of, especially one of the midfield roles that I wanted to play.
Yeah, sure. And who was your football idol growing up, Ryan? Who did you idolise as a footballer as a kid?
I used to look closely at the likes of like Glenn Hoddle, then later on Gascoigne, people like that. They were sort of players that I'd sort of not model my game on, but just sort of relate to a little bit. You know, Glenn's very, very sort of lethargic, looking on the ball, but could pass a ball and could finish, and he had an eye for detail and passing ability. Where Gazza was just a bit unpredictable at times, natural talent. Well, I think I had a little bit of both, but just they were the two that I sort of looked up to. But yeah, they're the two that stick out in my mind.
Yeah.
Before the semi-final, not to worry, you'll get to the final. I've had a dream, and Taylor scores 2 goals in the final. I thought that's a bit far-fetched, and my God, he did. But he was playing with West Ham when they beat Alan Taylor. But that night at Main Road, I came out of the ground, and it was like, it was dark, it was blowing, it was newspapers, programs, and there was the Fulham coach with Bobby Moore, Mullery, and Tommy Trinder, the chairman, all champagne bottles going off, and my dad and my uncle, who lived nearby in Ashton-under-Lyne, they were waiting for me, and I couldn't speak. I was so gutted, because if there was one thing I wanted from my dad, it was to play in a cup final, and we'd had the chance for Birmingham, of course, against Leeds when I played all the games. Then he left me out for the semi-final against Leeds in our promotion year. And then I got on as a sub when we were about 3-0 down with 2 minutes to go. So, I told Freddie Goodwin, I'm not Superman, got it. But with Fulham, we really thought we had a chance because we were the top division team, but they did have some good experience in there. But the way the goal and the ricochet with John Mitchell, Dave Latchford, it ricocheted off him. I can see it now. And Joe Gallagher running back, and then I thought he'll clear it, and he slipped. And it was no, it's not the sort of thing you forget, because if there was, not a journeyman player, but it's always difficult to play for your country. But I thought, to win the FA Cup's always meant a lot to us ever since. The very first final I saw when I was born in 44, and then the first final I saw was on black and white TV, the Matthews final.
Oh, weren't they?
Yeah, that was the last minute of the game, I believe, when Steve Vickers, I believe, scored or put the ball back. I was it Stern John? I don't know.
Stern John, yeah.
Stern John scored, the equaliser, and we went through. But yeah, what a day it was. And then obviously also the experience from like the gaffer at the time, Steve Bruce, who knew how to approach these kind of games as a group. We were very, very relaxed, to be honest, going into that game. And the thing is also, we went 2 days before the game, went to Cardiff because he wanted us to get an impression of the ground, which was actually, it was impressing, even when it's empty, when you walk on the pitch.
It's better than Wembley, Nico. It's better than Wembley, I promise you.
Well, unfortunately, I've never been on the pitch in Wembley, but it was impressive. Cardiff was impressive. And then, as I said, like we were quite relaxed. We had an excellent team spirit, and we went with quite a good self-belief as well into that game. It's a one-off game. It's not away and return leg. It's a one-off game. Everything can happen, and I think everything happened that game. We got behind in the first half of extra time. Equalized a couple of minutes later, fortunately, with Jeff Horsfield, and then obviously it went into penalties. Couldn't ask for more drama in that game, but I remember as well I had a lot of family at the game as well, and they said like they never experienced that sort of atmosphere in the ground. It was quite friendly also. The Norwich supporters, Birmingham supporters walking through each other before the game, and everything was friendly, and also afterwards. Things went smoothly, but I can imagine as a Blues supporter, it was a day never to forget.
The penalty, not for the glory, but I just knew I was going to score, and I wish I could tell you I had that feeling ever since from my career, but I've got more nervous taking penalties in front of 1,500 at Solihull Moors than I did that day.
Did you know the financial enormity of what that one shot was going to mean to a football club?
Not at all. Not at all.
No. When did you realise?
Probably years later.
Really?
I think after, obviously, people tell you it's like £40 million penalty or something like that. But literally, it was the whole season was a roller coaster. I'd made my debut in the January, and obviously I was just thrown into the mix, and I think I hadn't really took in that I was playing for my club. I'd made my debut, I was playing, and all of a sudden I'm at Cardiff in a playoff final taking a penalty. So it was just it was a whirlwind. From that January to the May was an absolute whirlwind.
Okay, all right. Sorry. One more quick one from me, Paul. Yeah, you've hit that ball. It's gone in the net. What was that? Not only the feeling, but the noise like. It was.
Again, it takes you like years before I actually thought about it, and watching it back now, I get more emotional watching it back and seeing people's faces and reactions, and I always remember walking up and I probably said this loads of times. There was a bit of a gasp from the Blues fans. Because I think they saw this 18-year-old kid stepping up. They're thinking, what the hell is Brucey thinking?
Guilty. Ian Atkins said, right, just a couple of lads, and then get to bed. And I think it's about 5:30 in the morning. Was still there. The hotel manager wouldn't let us go to bed. And it was just an unbelievable night, and it just sort of set the tone for the whole tour. From there, we had a couple of days, and then we travelled to Kilkenny. Travel to Kilkenny took us about 2.5 hours. Again, we got there about an hour and a half for kick-off. So you try and get yourself out of the minibus, stretch off, and lads are still trying to run off their hangovers from the 2 nights before. Samus Kumar comes into the change room about 3/4 an hour before kickoff and says, well, lads, I'd like to introduce you to your manager. And we had no idea who it was. Never mind, he was going to turn up that time. In walked Terry Cooper. And a couple of lads think, oh, my, this is not a fantastic first, showing impression for a new manager. And Ian Rogerson went out for the warm-up, and suddenly he developed a tight hamstring and didn't play. He was grasping for excuses as well. And we played the game. I was due to play 45 minutes, come off after 45 minutes, and sat next to him, to Coops, in the dugout. And he said, you and Dean Pear play midfield, don't you? You see Dean gets box to box. I said, yeah. Because I think Coops had come from Exeter, so he's seen us, played against him before. So he had a bit of an idea what we were about. And he's talking, he said, just ask me one question. He said, are you always this bad? I said, well, no. It can get slightly better. But it was a fantastic tour, honestly, as in for building team spirit. Because you just had to laugh, really, and in the accommodation. The accommodation was fantastic, but the way we were getting around, and it's just an indication of where the club was at the time, really struggling. But that season we went on to get promotion.
Mm-hmm.
So I went there, and then they wanted to sign me on a non-contract basis and play in their youth cup team and this, that, and the other. And then you've obviously not read my book, so that should be a fine for all of you.
It should be, yeah.
Because in my book, I tell you exactly what happens. I go back to the digs.
I'll tell you what, there's no fine. Just send us a signed copy.
Okay, no problem.
Right.
Where was you when I did the signing in the club shop? That's I think back at you now.
Back at us, that is, yeah.
I was at Jeff Whelan's.
The queue was that big outside, Tony. I missed the kick-off.
Yeah, same as me.
That was the chip shop. You were in the wrong queue.
Yes. I was going to say.
Holly, toughest manager that you've ever had to deal with at the club?
That's a good one.
Be honest.
I'm just trying to think. There's been obviously a fair few. In fairness, I wouldn't say anyone's been particularly awkward. I think they've all been actually very good. I've been banned by Trevor Francis and Steve Bruce, but I would say I get on well with both. Steve Cottrell is an acquired taste, very intense.
So was his managerial style as well.
Yeah. I wouldn't say there was anybody that either I didn't get on with or found difficult to deal with. I think I always took the view that everybody's different. We have jobs to do, whether I was a journalist or working for the club, and everyone's different. And one guy I've got a lot of time for is Lee Clark. Lee, and I think if he had his time over again, it just makes sense. He almost tried too hard.
He's actually listening, and he's just said, ask him about me and him driving down to Wembley on the Thursday evening with him building a shall we say a herbal cigarette whilst balancing the steering wheel with his knees. We can cut this bit out, Ricky.
Well, that was one of my many gifts, isn't it? You know what I mean? Trust Tatey to remember that, man. I think I would have been a bit more dignified and said to Tatey, I remember when me and Tatey was in the rave in Birmingham off our nuts.
Come on.
That's what I remember. Because if you go out with Tatey, trust me, you're going on an all-nighter. Right? He ain't making you go home, man. Yeah, there's been a couple of times when, me and Tatey's the last person dancing in the club, man, because Tatey knows how to party. I give him that, man.
Rave on.
Yeah, he can't dance to save his life, but he's got lungs, he's got wings, he can last the time. But again, things that we shouldn't have been doing. But I think, in saying that, there's a lot of things I think football didn't know how to tackle. A lot of us, we're just street kids, man.
Yeah.
You know, we're coming from the street, and so, you know, football wasn't as strict as it is now. But I suppose if football knew certain things, they could have probably guided us a little bit more, and maybe we wouldn't have been so erratic. But hey, it is what it is. But those are the moments that kind of bond players. And like I said, I've always respected Tatey as Tatey's he's a road man, he's a street man, he gets it. And the plays like that, it's no surprise that me and him are rolling down the M1, going to the Wembley Hotel, having a happy fag.
I could not remember this player.
That's probably for the best.
Yeah, it's probably for the best.
Yeah, and someone that says
I am friend of a Portuguese player. I am friend of Portuguese player Dominguez. Dominguez.
Jose.
Jose Dominguez. Yeah.
We'd love to get him on as well. That'd be fantastic.
We love Jose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would be.
Do you remember Rui Estevez?
Rui Esteves, yes, I know.
Rui Estevez.
Yes. The blonde guy, midfielder. Yes. Yeah.
Didn't stay long. He didn't stay long. I think it's one game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Why is it much, Ali? When you think, like, looking back over your football career, and we've just mentioned a few guys that get signed for a football club and then, like you say, play one game.
Yeah, it's strange, no? Strange. You know, to think about that, Danny Sonner is a very funny guy. All the time in the West Hills training ground, he's coming to everybody say, we are very, very unlucky because we signed a Brazilian, but looks like an English player. You know, so he signed it's very funny the way that he said, but the meaning was like that. You know, he signed a Brazilian player, but he's more English than Brazilian, so we are unlucky. Instead of has a technical Brazilian player, we sign a more English than Brazilian player. You know, so he was, and I think this is why, you know, I stayed 5 years in England. You know, I think it was because of my. Yeah.
Oh, I think we lost you there. Hang on, is he still there?
Oh, he's just frozen.
Oh, he's just frozen. You're frozen.
He drove off.
He's driven off. Oh, somebody's asked for a pizza.
Come back. Did you sort of, you wake up the next day? Did you realise what you'd done straight away, or did it take time to sink in for you as well?
For me, it was. It took a while. It took a while to sink in for sure. Waking up the next day, do you know when you think, wow, we've just won and it's an amazing day and you're going to wake up with a hangover? Unfortunately, it didn't happen. But I think the adrenaline and everything, I just felt like we had no energy left. And then, well, I speak for myself and I'm guessing everybody else, but I had no energy. And the emotion of the whole thing, I had a few drinks, but no impact, and I was devastated. I was thinking, I want to enjoy it so much, but it just couldn't happen because, like, I think we worked so hard, had nothing left in the tank, and couldn't really enjoy it the way we would have liked, you know. And that was the emotion, like, because it's an emotional day, like you were saying there, that you got there at 2 o'clock and it didn't start till 4, but they're the things you have to enjoy the whole moment because it don't come around very often. I had my family and friends in the stadium as well, and you know, like, it's something that you'll always look back on. And me and my wife have been speaking about it of late because obviously doing things like this. So, and she keeps saying how cold it was. I was freezing.
It was freezing.
I had my twins in there, and they was like 1 year old, if that, you know, like, and like they obviously can't remember none of it, but just memories, my family being there, you know, like, it's proud days for us because this is what we play football for, is to win. And
that's my big well being there with my three boys. You know, Adam Lucas Scott sat next to me at a cup final and we win it. Whatever
You want it now?
Is it clean?
You want it now, yeah?
Yeah, go on then.
Yeah.
Go on,
right then, a quick. Unfortunately, fell out with Trevor Francis, and I I did everything I could to get back in the team, playing really well in the reserves. It wasn't happening. Got a call. He said, I'd turned down loads of moves to Wolves, Watford over the years. Loads of moves I turned down. And I just wanted to start Blues. I thought I'd outlast Trevor, but obviously it didn't happen. And he just said Oxford have come in, they're in the Championship and against Blues and blah, blah. I said, what they're offering, I'll go and speak to them. Just needed to get back playing. Anyway, signed for 3 years. I think it was 3.5 years. Went down there, fresh start, you know, keep me out of trouble. You know, because I was always involved in a lot of trouble living in Birmingham. And great club, family club, got on with everyone. Big Kev Francis was down there and, you know, good friend of mine. And I thought, right then, this is it, the next chapter. I'm fit, I'm raring to go, just want to play. So we're playing Chelsea in the FA Cup. I think Chelsea were the oldest, I think, at the Manor. We're playing at the Manor Ground on the Tuesday or the Wednesday in the week. And we're training. We went training on the Monday morning. And as you know, all the players are there just kicking a ball around, a cup of tea, having a chat, and lovely weather, lovely setting in Oxford. And next thing you know, this guy appears, big guy, in a 3/4 jacket. And he starts swearing. And this was about 9:30 in the morning, believe it or not. So all the lads are backing off now, moving away, telling him to get away, get security, even though we didn't have security. Get security, get someone, get him away. And he was swearing. And next thing you know, he's gone into his jacket and pulled out a kosh. Right? So, and I didn't think anything of it. I'm thinking, well, I was obviously off his nuts. And so he started waving his kosh around. Like this, wow. And all the lads are backing off now. Well, I've backed off behind this guy. I'm thinking, well, whatever happens, he ain't going to do nothing. And so he's put the kosh away, he starts swearing. Next thing you know, he's gone into his jacket again. He's pulled out a gun. So obviously, things change, don't they, when you see a shooter? Don't know if anyone's ever had a gun pulled out on him.
No, not recently. No.
You know, so he's pulled out his shooter. And all the lads now are screaming, like, you know, darting off, running. And I'm thinking, well, what? I don't know anyone really. I don't know Kevin. I think, well, what do I do? So I turned round, looked at me, and pointed the gun at me. And I've gone, I can't believe this. I said, I've only been here a day, or two or 3 days. So these are pulling out a shooter on me. Oh, I can't believe it. So next thing you know, I've started to jog, and he's coming after me now with the gun. Right? He's coming after me with the gun. All I've heard is bang. I've gone, what was that? Was that a shot? So I don't. When you get into, you always say, think about it. If someone's chasing you and they've got a gun, okay. But when you hear a bullet or when you hear a bang, you don't run that quick because you're just waiting for it to hit you, right? So you can imagine like a Benny Hill scene when the geezer's legging after me and all across the training ground, and I'm going left and right, and he's coming after me, and all looking at is bang, bang. Obviously, I'm absolutely bricking it, and he's chasing me, and I'm thinking, how come he hasn't hit me? I'm literally like nearly crying now. So I kept on running, I'm running, bang, bang, and he's still coming. And I thought I should be able to outrun him, but my legs, I couldn't move. They were like jelly. I'd absolutely gone. So I got to this big oak tree, and I thought, I can't run anymore. I'm just going to have to have it with him. And there's these old geezers. There was a golf course. I didn't have a clue where I was running. I didn't know the area. And there was these 2 old guys playing golf on the putting green, like doing shots like that. And I went, right. So I've just run over to the green, grabbed the geezer's putter off him, and said, mate, I said, I've got to have this. And he was obviously, you can imagine what he was saying to me. He was going, mental thief, stop. So I need this. I just need it. So I got behind this big oak tree with this putter, and he's going mad at me, this old geezer. And the old guy with the gun is still coming at me. And all he said to me is, putting the gun, I'm behind the tree, and he said, put the putter down, and I won't shoot. And I'm thinking, hold on a minute, how many shots has he had now? I'm going to take me. Look, I'm going to risk it. He must have had about 6 shots, and I'm like, my adrenaline's pumping around, thoughts all going through my mind. I'm thinking. So I've got the golf club, and I've said, look, listen, let's go then. And I've just run into him, and thank Christ, I've tried to do as much damage as I could. It's fine for my life, and I've hit him, and he put up he had the cosh in one hand and the gun in the other. So he's put his hands up like this, and I've hit his hand. Blood's gone everywhere, pissing of blood everywhere. He's fallen to the floor. I'm just absolutely caning him in on now. So next thing you know, the players are running over. It's mental. Like can you imagine the pandemonium now? It's like it's really bad. There's blood. Oh, just noise. Some guy's got me around the throat trying to strangle me. I understood then that was his son. And then he's on the floor, and all the players are jumping on me. And they said, it's a wind-up, it's a wind-up. And I said, what do you mean a wind-up? And apparently, this guy called Terry, he used to do it to every new player at Oxford. He used to put balaclavas on, go into the showers. So if you turned around, he'd be standing there with a shooter. They had players crying in the corner, like crying for their wives and kids. He did it to the England football team years ago, back in the 80s. So he was well known. And obviously I've left him on the floor, covered in blood, ambulance and everything. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get nicked here. It's like attempted murder. And I've not even played, I've only played one game for him. I'm thinking, what is going on? I can't believe this happened to me. And I've had to go with Big Kev, 6'7" Kev, who could just knock me out with one punch. And I'm starting to rip into him, saying, how could you do this to me? And then it was just absolute nuts, really bad. It made all the papers down there. And anyway, as time went on, I got a letter from the guy I hit suing me then for loss of earnings. He was a window cleaner by trade, and he couldn't work for 6 months because I smashed his hands into bits. And I'm thinking, this can't get any worse for me. I've had a bill coming from the old guy off the golf course, 145 quid for a putter. I don't even play golf. I ain't got a clue what was going on, how much the golf clubs are worth. So I said to the club, I said, I'm not paying anything. I said, you've said.
Oh, good God, how did it affect me? It changed my life. Yeah. It changed my life. I went through spells of depression. I still suffer with anxiety. I had the suicidal thoughts.
Wow.
I'd be walking around looking at trees and thinking, that won't take my weight, and so on and so forth. And yeah, I'm gonna, asking my wife sometimes if there's any rope in the garage and stuff like that. And the thing with it is it affected me more emotionally than physically. It affected me physically, but more emotionally. And in the past, I was one of those ones when people said about people who took their own lives. I always felt it was sort of selfish. But it's only when I experienced what I experienced that I realized it wasn't selfish. They're not selfish. What it is, you're not in control. You are not in control.
Wow.
Thankfully, I'm over that sort of extreme case of that. But occasionally, like I said, I still have the anxiety issues from time to time. But in the main, I'm okay.
That's good. That's good.
Thanks for being so candid and honest, mate. That is.
And said, listen, Bruce, I want to go. I know I've just had a new contract, but Mark is my hero, is my idol, and I want to go and sign for Blackburn. And Bruce, he said, you're not going. And I understood it because, I was, in my opinion, I was a very effective player for that blue side. Not the most gifted, but I tell you what, my sheer hard work, and I watched that game back, as I keep alluding to, and the amount of ground I covered, and I'd give everything for that blue shirt. And so I know why Brucey wanted to keep me. But then, obviously, I remember we went to Fulham, do you remember? And I scored a volley. We won 3-2 against Fulham.
Yeah.
I flicked it up and put it in my left foot. And that was the time when, I knew I wanted to leave, but my performances on the pitch, I was still producing. And then that night match of the day, I was asked the question, interest from Blackburn, are you leaving? And I just said, well, I'm currently a Birmingham City player. And for me, when I hear players saying that now in an interview, well, I'm still an ex-player, which I was a Birmingham player. I know deep down they want to leave because that's what I was saying. I'm currently a Birmingham player. It's out of my hands. And then I remember I went home and I got a piece of A4 paper out of my kitchen, and I wrote on it, "Dear Steve, please accept that as my transfer request." So the next day, I went into the training ground, and Dwight Yorkie, I was very close to, I said, "Yorkie, I'm going to put a transfer request in." And Yorkie said, "Oh, Sav, you sure? You know, you're doing great here." I said, "No, I'm going to do it." So I went upstairs in the training ground, knocked on the door, and Brucey opened the door, and I just give him this piece of A4 like paper, and he knew. And I went down, and his face, and I said to Yorkie, "I don't think he's happy." Yorkie. So we went on to the
They give you a pair of trainers, a pair of boots, and a pair of spikes for doing your sprinting and all that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So Ray Devy gave me a pair of boots the first day I was there, and there was people might remember him, Aldecoa. He was a Spanish coach. He was a good coach, but he gave me these boots, Ray Devy. And it's 64, and boots are starting to change. Remember, these had big brown toenails, you know, the big ones at the end. I looked at him when he gave them to me, and I thought, you can't do anything, can you? 15-year-old kid, first day. Put them on. So I went out training. Start training, I thought. So this circle, and Al used to call it rondo. You see them doing it nowadays, where they have two in the middle and they keep. He called it rondo. He did, Al. So I got in the middle, and all of a sudden I went, "Oh my God, stop this game now." And he used to call me Gas, get off my pitch with those boots and never come back. Wow. On my life, I didn't know what to do even. Get off. I said, "Well, Mr. Devy, take them to Devy and give them to me." I didn't know what to do. So he'd obviously tried to plant them on me, Ray Devy. Last of the brown boots.
Yeah. Mick James says Gary played in the first ever game I watched at St Andrews, February 1978 against Middlesbrough. See, you've made memories. Ask Gary, who was your footballing hero from Stephen Gill?
My footballing hero? I used to love Norman Hunter, even though he was probably in my era. I thought I thought Norman was terrific. And actually got to know him later on in life, and he was a terrific guy as well. But he was left-footed like me. We even had, my wife and I, we even had a black cat when we first got married, and I called him Hunter.
My cat's called Bo.
There's different times, like when, you know, Ridgie and Rog, if they're playing centre-half, like, then that was, I'm not saying that's fine, but what I'm saying is, like, they kind of knew each other's game. They were, sometimes you know that the old guard sometimes is going to get the nod. That's fine. But it's the case of when someone was injured, that's the big thing that kind of, that threw me, and that's the thing that made me lose my head. So I was frustrated on the sideline at first, but it wasn't a case of because I should be in instead of him. It's never been the case. It's just my own frustration. I've been signed here to play and I'm not playing. But then once I was left out for an injured player, basically, that's when I thought, I'm done. And that sent me almost backwards because, you know, having, like I said, had a year out from losing my head of being just left on the side while I'm fit, and then signing for Blues, thinking, here we go again, I'm starting all over again. It then was, hang on. Now I'm actually just sitting on the bench with some, actually on the bench rather than in the stands this time. You know, I looked at our bench, and when I talk about that the gaffer wanted to get back to the team that won the cup, you know, I'm sitting on the bench, I'm looking around. Obafemi Martins, David Bentley, Alexander Hleb, Ziggy, Kev Phillips, you know, Dave Murphy or Parno, whichever one was on the bench that day. And I'm like, with all due respect, how can Bent's not getting this team? How can David Bentley not getting this team? Alexander Hleb, I understand he's a different type of player, but you know, if we're losing a game, what kind of player do you want to come on and change the game? Surely a Hleb that he plays in the hole and is able to make that key pass. And you've got Kev Phillips. I know he couldn't possibly have played all the games if you say, oh, his body maybe couldn't do it, but you know, he's a natural finisher. He's the most natural finisher I've played with.
Pitch and things, you've got to have a special type of player for the Blues to go through that tunnel and then be expected to play in front of them fans, because they weren't demanding. The only thing they demanded that you gave your all, and I think that's why that's why they forgive a lot of everything. But if you were giving 100%, I tell you what, they soon took to you.
I can tell you now.
They'd always remember. They will always remember you. You know, whether you're good, bad, or indifferent. If you was giving 100% and they could see you giving 100%, then they would take you to their hearts, which they did for a lot of us in that era.
We know that everybody gave 100%. You can't give 110% because there's no such number. I'm sorry, you can't. It was 100% of that Worthington Cup final, and nobody judged any single player. Not ever in all the years after that. Nobody has ever spoken to me and said, "Oh, you know, so and so was slacking." Nobody. Everybody gave their all. And do you know what? Do you know what else? We gave our all as well up there in the.
Oh, listen! I mean, the nights where when you were kicking down into the Tilton, you know, and things like that, and the crowd, they actually get you goals because they hit you with the momentum, and then I think the players can breed off that, you know, and the amount of times where the corner down in the bottom end, and you get a goal, you get a last minute goal, you get a win, and you turn your draws into wins, and I think that's why around that area of the fans it was unbelievable, and the noises sometimes and the games were frightening, you know, and I think you used to scare a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Did you?
But with the ties, he had to go in. I don't know where he went, in Marks and Spencer's, and got a load of ties, so we all looked the same. And we wasn't supposed to have a celebration, but we did, and we went to the Swallow Hotel in Enfield. And while we was having our knees up, I got a phone call from Karen, giving me the biggest bollocking I've ever had.
Oh, swear on number one!
Because she said to me, "You bastard." I said, "What are you talking about?" I've just had Doug Ellis on. I went, "What about?" She said, "Didn't you see when Tatey scored the goal, he took his shirt off?" I said, "Yeah, it's to celebrate." He said, "Yeah, you know what he had underneath? You told him to put it on." I said, "What are you talking about, Karen?" She said it had shit on the villa. I don't know nothing about it. She said, "Yes, you did. I've heard you give every single player a shirt to wear, so whoever scored, that's what happened." I said, "Karen, I don't know what you're talking about." And I didn't know what she talked about. I didn't have a clue. But obviously, Tatey being Tatey, somebody done the shirt, and of course he wore it because he knew he was going to score the golden goal. I mean, I got to blame. Karen thought I'd give every player. I didn't even think about that. All I thought about was winning the game and celebrating, and then going back to the main event, playing Brentford at home on a Wednesday.
But can you allude on to that a bit more, Matt? You know, you mentioned there the chairman was the manager at one point, and obviously we've all seen the pictures of Dong in his tracksuit on the training ground. Was he getting stuck? Was he himself?
I think when certain managers came in, I think it became clear who was kind of making decisions at the end. I think before, when Gary was in charge, you wouldn't see it if it weren't staff on the training pitch, you wouldn't see no one. No one was allowed. So it was just players, staff, and that's exactly how it was. But then after that, you know, you'd eventually see, you know, like Don coming in, chairman coming in. You see them doing kick-ups on which we're training. They're doing kick-ups like in their shoes and that. And it was just like, yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't pretty, but yeah, I think that's where we kind of struggled, because if the way it was set up behind closed doors didn't go with what was going on the pitch. I think as a team, we had that spirit, but because all the stuff behind it wasn't great, it just made it. It didn't make it as smooth as we wanted to as players. So we were always fighting with what was behind, and then trying to, you know, perform on a Saturday. It just didn't sometimes, and that's why I think the consistency as a team at my time there, we just didn't have that consistency. We were just like up and down every other week. We'd have maybe like 2-3 weeks where we do well, and then like 2-3 weeks where we just poor. Yeah.
Did you feel like actually turning around and saying, we've got a manager, leave us alone? Or as players, was it a case of having to kind of put up with it because you were feared for being in the squad and in the team? I mean, you mentioned about being on the training ground, but did they have a say in picking the team as well?
I think they did. I think a lot of us thought that they did have a say in who was coming in, who wasn't coming, who wasn't playing, who was starting, what 11 was going to be on, who's going to be on the bench. We definitely felt that, and it wasn't so much a fear, but it was almost like you don't make any decision. You're just out there. You get picked to go out on the pitch, and you get picked to go and perform. So, although we could challenge it and be like, we don't agree with it, it didn't matter one bit.
I think it's something we all really suspected, didn't we?
Yeah.